Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Harriet. Welcome to the show today. I want to start just by asking you, tell me a bit about you. How did you get into marketing?
So I had a full-time marketing job at a race course some years ago, which I kind of fell into a little bit, really. It was quite handy. I didn't blag my way in, obviously. I was hugely professional. But I had a great job there. My son was then born and I couldn't agree a return to work strategy with the employers. And it also coincided with a time when my dad was diagnosed with dementia and my son's father called off our wedding 6 weeks before the day. So I was stuck kind of not knowing what to do, couldn't go to work, didn't have a job. So I just thought, right, I've got to go freelance and sort of got into freelance marketing that way.
But I mean, that's quite a bumpy period, isn't it? You know, like there's quite a few big life choices right in the middle there coming all at the same time. So,
yeah, absolutely. It was a tricky time. I was really lucky to get clients straight away. I had quite a difficult time. You know, it was like, do you go down the universal credit route? Do you see what help you can get? And it just wasn't working for me. I had one really awkward meeting in the job seekers office in Eastbourne. And I just came out of there thinking, no, I'm not going to be one of these people that struggles to get by. I'm just going to go for it. And, you know, there had to be a better way. And there was. So I was quite lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I often talk to people, you know, entrepreneurs, we do seem to have this sort of bit of grit that even though we go through some really tough times, we do keep pushing forward and trying to overcome those. I mean, you obviously had that right at the beginning, right at the start, that actually just overcoming that, right, I've got to get going, I've got to make this work. You know, especially, you've got a child as well, you know, there's also other responsibilities that for some people there won't have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been my biggest drive in business is when you're having those really hard days, it's think back to your why. And at the time, you know, I didn't know how involved my son's dad was going to be. I mean, you know, fortunately, he is very involved in his life still, so I don't need to worry about that. But at the time, there's all these thoughts going through your mind, like, what if it is just me forever? I need to show up for this little man and provide for him. So yeah, if ever I'm having a bit of a struggle, I'm like, no, come on, think of why you're doing this. So you've got that freedom, that flexibility to do the things, and that keeps me going.
Yeah, I think having that sort of personal why, sort of almost above and beyond just money, because obviously everyone needs to eat. We need to earn income, you know, but having an understanding why you're doing that, I think really does help you get through those tough days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you first start out? Obviously, you're in marketing, but you had to market yourself. So you know, you said you were lucky to grab a few clients fairly early on, but did that continue?
It did, yeah. It was quite by chance, really. It was one of my mum's neighbours was looking for someone to help with their marketing freelance. And so I think I just got the job because it was my mum's friend. You know, I'll take it.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
That kind of led to, like, you know, word of mouth. I got a few more. And then I was like, oh, this is great. But I made so many mistakes early on that I kind of set myself a really low bar, especially in terms of what to charge. There were absolutely no business boundaries whatsoever. I didn't really have a business plan. Everything was very reactive rather than proactive. And I think that sort of slowed me down initially. I was just grateful to have clients and, you know, sort of, oh, I've got a client, I have my first paycheck. Right, I'm going to buy a laptop. And then you get your second paycheck and then you invest in a little plinky plonky website. And it sort of went from there. And it was only really a few years later that I was like, no, I'm going to stop playing it like this and trading time for money and working all hours God send. I'm going to actually start charging what I'm worth and get clients that are more aligned to, you know, what it is that I want to offer. And it's been a slow process, and I'd say the process isn't complete yet, but we're getting there.
There certainly is that discovery, isn't there, on that journey, that sometimes what you want to achieve and maybe those initial clients that you have, what they want to achieve and the budget they've got available don't always align. And you know, we all go through it, but it is starting to understand, you know, what is it I offer? You know, what actually am I selling here? Because at the start you say yes to everyone because you almost have to. I mean, I know it's the good business advice is not to do that, but realistically, there are months when you're like, you know, right, I need some money, you know, and someone's offering to pay me to do something, so I'm gonna do it. But as you move further on, to be able to really refine down your offering and, you know, who you work with, definitely gives you that, I guess, one, the competitive edge, but also more enjoyment in the job, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of my favorite things is sort of combining marketing management with a bit of coaching as well. So I'll quite often get people come to me and they want help with their social media, and they'll say that it's because they don't have time. And really, that's not the reason. It's because they don't have the confidence. Kind of having someone else talk about their services and their offer and what it is they do is easier than them trying to speak about it themselves. So one of the things I really love doing is saying to them, you know, you know what you're talking about. You're an expert in your field. Be more confident to show up on camera or explain what it is you're doing, and watching them grow in confidence and show up more is kind of what lights me up, really.
Yeah, there is that definite bit that, you know, a lot of business owners, they say they don't have time or whatever, but business can be a very lonely place. And in fact, if you haven't got someone else to bounce some ideas off or just reassure you that actually this is the right thing to do, you almost are stuck and you don't move forward. And that's why, you know, I think connecting with other business owners, working with coaches, consultants, all of that is actually really beneficial for most business owners, because most of us are really good at our job, but we're not taught how to run a business. And all we see is everyone else and think they're smashing it. When in fact, when you start to speak to people, actually, oh, yeah, no, I went through that a year ago, or yeah, 5 years ago, I went through that, but this is how I overcame it. And it means that actually the business community can support each other, but in a professional way, by offering coaching, consulting, and etc. Do you find that talking to people?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the harsh realities of starting your own business was that actually some of your nearest and dearest, closest family and friends aren't your best business allies at all, because a lot of people just don't get it, or they don't support you. You know, my mum, for example, thinks that all I do is play around on Facebook for people, but it's because she doesn't understand it. You know, it's a generational thing. They don't really get it. So it's really difficult to speak to her about certain, you know, business problems that I might have. Whereas, you know, reaching out, going networking or getting a business coach and finding someone, like you say, that's been through it as well, it's so much more reassuring, and it makes it a little bit less lonely.
Yeah, I love those memes of sort of, you know, what my parents think I do, what my friends think I do, sort of grids, and it's what I actually do. And quite often people don't understand necessarily the role, but equally don't understand the stresses and the strains of running a business, because it is completely different to being sort of traditionally employed by a company and knowing that your paycheck at the end of the month is a set figure. It is what it is. And actually, doesn't matter how the company are doing as such, you know, as long as you're still employed, you're getting that. But when you're running it yourself, it's a different game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to wear all the hats.
Yeah. So what have you learned from working with other people that most sort of small businesses fall short on with their own marketing?
I think it's the confidence thing, because it's different for me, because marketing is what I do. So marketing my business, it should come easily. I mean, it's like the last thing that I do, but I prioritize everybody else's marketing over my own. But I think it's because it's not firsthand to them. So, you know, I've got a couple of clients who are dog trainers. They're absolutely fantastic dog trainers and can talk about different behaviors and breeds and reactivity in dogs all day long. But then creating a bit of a strategy about, you know, what workshops they've got coming up or what classes they've got available is just not something that lights them up at all. So it's kind of like a combination of being there for them and saying, no, you can do this. You've got to have a strategy. You've got to think about how many spaces you've got on this course, how much money you're going to generate from it. And again, as well, it's saying things like, why are you charging that? You know, you're worth so much more. It's going to take you hours to prepare, hours to travel. You're not going to get anything out of it. And quite often we all want to help people, small business owners. I think they're very passionate about what they do and they want to help people. But it's about finding that balance between helping people, but also earning a living.
Yeah, there's definitely sometimes a disconnect between, I suppose, understanding pricing, because if you've come from a background where you used to get paid an hourly wage, and you look at that hourly figure and you think, oh, that's what I'm sort of worth, and then but actually you didn't have all the expenses. You realize that actually you're not working every hour of the day. You know, not every hour of your day is billable. You know, you're doing other bits. So therefore your hourly rate needs to go up straight away. And then you've got some specialist skills thrown in there as well. So I think a lot of people, when they start out, do go in very cheap because, you know, they maybe don't understand the value of what they're offering.
Yeah, that was one of the mistakes I made. Absolutely. You know, when you take out your business insurance and your subscriptions and your tech, and like you say, the hours that you spend on your business but aren't client focused, it's really hard to justify it. And then, you know, what happens if you get ill? There's no sick pay, there's no holiday pay, which is, you know, really, really hard to sort of get your head around. You know, first of all, you're like, oh, yeah, I've got clients, I've got my own business, this is brilliant. And then you're like, oh no, I want to go on holiday, or oh no, I'm poorly. There's nobody to help.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve as you go through that journey. Has there ever been a time when you've just thought, you know what, I don't know if this is worth it? And if so, how did you get over that?
Yes, several times I'm like, oh God, I can't do this anymore. But I have to say, I have invested in a coach now, and having that person on tap to support me through the hard times. Yes, it's been a financial investment, but I definitely believe that I wouldn't have got to where I am today in business if it weren't for having the support from coaches.
Yeah, I completely agree. I find it really interesting well, I suppose I often compare our business to sport, because, you know, sport is competitive as is business. And yet in sport, it doesn't matter at what level you play, you always have a coach. You know, you can be, you know, the world's best footballer, you still have a football coach, you know, world best tennis player, you have but in business, we seem to, you know, whether it's because we see everyone smashing it on social media and think, oh no, you know, they're just doing it, so I should be able to do it. But actually, there's so many different skill sets within a business, and actually, often it doesn't as such go back to what the actual role is that you do. Most people are really, really good at what they actually do. It's just all the other parts that are tricky, and it's why I think the majority of businesses fail in the first year. You know, it's something ridiculous, sort of 90%. And I think it's that, you know, running out of cash flow, the stress, not understanding all the other little bits. But I mean, you're a few years in now, so you're over that bumpy road. But, you know, what's your drive to get you to push forward? Is it having someone else sort of giving you a kick up the bum at times? You know, it's like, right, this is what you said you were going to do this month.
Yeah, I mean, having a bit of accountability is definitely helpful. I do think you have to be quite self-driven as well. You know, like you're saying, in terms of the times of loneliness, and obviously, well, the way I have it with my business coach is she's not there 24/7.
No.
It's kind of like I dip in and out in various courses and calls and things. So that in between time, you definitely have to give yourself a bit of a kick up the butt. But again, I just go back to my why. You know, I think of like my little boy. I think, right, I want to go camping this weekend. I want to book a holiday. I want to be able to make it in time to watch the nativity. So planning my work around that is definitely my driver. You know, I'm really lucky in that I haven't had to kind of send parents or, you know, grandparents off to watch something because I can't make it myself, because I haven't been that organised to do it. Or, you know, I can volunteer for the Beavers walk that we're going on next weekend, you know, so that kind of is my drive and my kick up the backside. You know, if I want to pay for these things and enable to do these things, I have to work at it.
Yeah, I mean, I get there's a couple of bits in there. I mean, I think, yeah, you're right. You have to sort of, earn the money so you can pay to do these things. But equally, I think one of the biggest things we maybe don't talk about and as success, because when we say success, lots of people think of how much money someone's earning. But actually, the time to go and sit at the school nativity, the time to go and do whatever it is, actually, if you've got the time to do that, that means you're successful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I get really annoyed when I see people that claim to be business coaches online saying, I'm going to get you to your first 10K month, or I'm going to get you to your first 6-figure salary. Not everyone wants that.
No.
Some people were just happy with a 2K month or a 4K month, or, whatever it is you're earning, as long as you're doing what you want to do in a way that suits your family and your values, anything you want to do in your spare time, that you're winning.
Yeah. Yeah, because money, and I say it, and I almost have to sort of position this right, but, you can always get more money. And what I mean by that is, that you can work more hours, you can do other things, but the one thing that you can never get more of is time. Once that time's gone, it's gone. So that is definitely the more valuable sort of currency. And I think more needs to be spoken about that. Yes, if you want that 10K a month or, a 6-figure business, fine. But equally, at the end of it, you're probably not going to remember that. You're going to remember the time that you spent with friends or family or doing experiences, and that's real success. But I guess maybe success is just the freedom to choose.
Yeah, I think it's whatever success means to that individual person. So having that freedom to choose, the money and the 6 figures, if that's what they want to do, that's absolutely fine. Hats off to them. But if it's the person that just wants a part-time business around the kids so they can be there for them, then that's also amazing.
Yeah. I think success needs to be reframed almost on an individual basis as, what do you want? Okay, if you're achieving it, you're successful. That's fine, and not take that pressure from external sources. And on that note, let's talk social media, because we see lots of positive and negative stuff on spoken about with social media. How do you feel that social media has impacted sort of just the way we all operate these days?
I think it's massively reduced our concentration time. Just watching people swipe through reels, only watching a couple of seconds. I think it's good and bad and ugly. It's, it can be great for connecting people and discovering new things. My stepdaughter uses it instead of Google. She uses TikTok as a search engine, and some of the stuff that she's, come up with, she's really into houseplants, and I would be a Googler for how to look after houseplants, but she'll say, oh, try doing this, that, and the other. And I said, oh, where did you learn that? She said, TikTok. Fantastic. So it's all got its place, but there is so much. It's really easy to get imposter syndrome on there. It's really easy to compare yourself to others on there. And I think we should all limit how much time we spend on there.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. I mean, I'm certainly on a bit of one, as quite a big social media user, as in, I put out daily content and things like that. But equally, I don't want to get caught up in just spending all of my time on there when, I realised I went out with one of my best mates. We grabbed a bite to eat and a meal, a bite to eat and a beer last weekend. And it had been about 6 months since I'd seen him. And you just think, but I've seen all these people on social media almost every single day, yet to actually meet up. And but both of us have busy lives and kids and things like that. So, and we'd spoken, we hadn't actually seen each other. And yeah, it's very easy just to get caught up in that, looking at what everyone else is doing on social media. And you said about imposter syndrome, I think all of us compare our sort of behind the scenes with the highlight reel that we're seeing everyone else putting up. And yeah, it's easy to do.
And it's hard as a business owner, because you kind of like have that personal recreational use of social media as well as your business use of social. And I think trying to get the balance right between that is quite hard, because there are a lot of other businesses out there doing what you do. So you do have to keep showing up and trying to make reels that are going to go viral or create engaging content or add value to your page. But so that takes a lot of time, and you shouldn't just post and ghost. You should reply to comments and see what other people are doing. So that it is time consuming, But then equally, you need to step away from it as well. Remember that there is more to life than social media, both in life and business.
Yeah, I guess it is trying to find that right balance between understanding that it's a tool that we should be using to promote our business, and yes, we can use it for research. And it was interesting what you were saying about, you know, looking on TikTok rather than Google, and we're seeing that massively. You know, and TikTok's taking a huge share because I suppose we like video content. The way we consume content has changed, and I can see the way Google goes is slightly changing. That will almost be the purchasing decision. We're not looking for information. Actually, we know what we want. Then we're going to Google to find it and buy it. Whereas when we're looking, maybe something like TikTok is the way that we're going to go. But then again, they're talking about banning it in the US. So let's, you know, I think the only constant is change, isn't it, in social media? There's just announcements constantly about, you know, all different changes. And do you find that's also overwhelming for other businesses of thinking that just everything changes, and they say, oh, I want to do this, and you're like, well, actually that's 3 years old now, and like that's not the way it's done?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I always try to say to my clients, you know, just do what feels right for you and where your ideal customer is going to be. You know, so if your ideal customer base or the majority of your following are women in their 50s, you don't really need to be on TikTok. You know, you need to be providing decent content on your website. You need to be nurturing them on an email list and be consistent on Facebook, because they're far more likely to find you in those places than if you're spending 2 hours a day trying to create something on TikTok. So
yeah,
it depends on the individual, I think, and also what they can sustainably do. You know, some people say to me, right, I'm going to really massively focus on my Instagram this month. I'm going to create loads of content. And I say, fantastic. What about next month? Because they burn out so quickly with it. You know, so it's finding that consistent pattern that they can keep up with, I think, is more important.
Yeah, consistency is definitely the key there. You know, again, lots of people have, you know, oh, I've got a bit of time this week and create 7 posts. They all go out once a day and then nothing for 3 weeks because they've lost the time. And I've been guilty of it as well. You know, I think it's really clear to say, when anyone's listening to everything I'm saying, don't think I'm perfect. You know, like the things that I say are as much to remind me as they are everyone else, you know. Yeah, you know, like we all have days when actually we don't feel like showing up, but it's those days that actually make you stronger for doing it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say to people, social media isn't a sales tool. It's about people learning about who you are. So if you are having a bad day, be honest about it. You know, I used to kind of put my prices down and not really show myself up that much because I was like, oh God, I'm a single mum, or I've got a kid, so there's only so many hours I can work. People aren't going to like that. But actually, I think people respect that more. So I would be proud of your situation. If you're having a bad day, if you're comfortable to do so, share it, because it'd be so relatable. You can bet your bottom dollar someone else is having a bad day too.
Yeah, that's really important. I think, you know, I say about the COVID period, you know, what an absolutely awful period in time. Actually, I suppose one positive is that it brought forward the fact that we all understand everyone's got a home life. Because suddenly, rather than going to someone's snazzy office and they were in the perfect suit and, you know, it was all very professional, suddenly you were seeing their washing hanging up in the background and the kid walking in while they're in a meeting, and understanding, you know what, we are all quite alike. We're just trying to get through. And perhaps that's where that little bit of vulnerability, the little bit of honesty as to how we're working, something like that, it actually has been pushed forward, and maybe COVID sort of has allowed that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so, because my son didn't go to nursery during COVID, obviously. So I was having, I set up just the dining room table. I didn't have the showoffice that I'm in now. And I remember being on the phone to one of the advertising companies that a client had a contract with, and my son came running in saying he'd done a poo. It's fantastic. So sorry, bear with. But it's life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that is the thing. We have to understand that, you know, all of the work that we do is just within our daily life. It's just that life is life. Work is a massive part of life, but it's not the only part.
Yeah.
And when you've got kids, well, I always say my kids don't care about my business. And to be honest, I don't even want them to. They don't need to. Why should they worry if I've had a bad day at work? It's like, it's not their responsibility or to even consider it. So trying to understand those differences, that actually business can just fit in with your life, not be your entire life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do try to sort of show my son what I'm working on, or because my husband's self-employed as well. And then we've also got a little hobby business on the side. So he does see us working a lot at home. And sometimes he'll think that I'm just scrolling on my phone, and I try not to be on devices around him too much. But sometimes I'm like, mate, I'm really sorry, but I've just got to create this post or send this email. It's work, but give me 5 minutes and then we'll do something. And I think that is quite important, to sort of be transparent with them.
Yeah, actually, yeah, no, that's really good, because you are installing, that work ethic into them. When they see people working, and then the rewards you're able to get, which is, turning up and the time that you've got, or even financial. Yeah, actually, that does set a good sort of ethics, I suppose, into children.
Yeah, but like you say, I'm not going to drill anything into them or expect them to become entrepreneurs as well. But it's just kind of like, this is what we do. And if you want to start your own business when you're older, we'll absolutely support you. But equally, if you want to go and get a job or go to uni, you do you. But yeah. Just showing up for them. So to finish off today, what advice would you give to someone starting a small business? Don't make the mistakes I made.
So go through one of those, and pricing obviously was one you mentioned earlier.
Pricing was a big one. Make sure you're really clear on how much time you're prepared to give to somebody for what it is that you've quoted them, and be really strict on boundaries. That was another one that I fell short on. So, if you're promising to deliver on X, Y, and Z, don't then start giving them A, B, C as well for the same money.
Yeah.
Don't be a people pleaser. Don't be scared to say no, and find, like a nice little tribe of people. It doesn't have to be loads, but a couple of business buddies to help you when you've got a bad day, or you've got a query that you just want to fire ideas around with someone. I mean, that's so valuable.
Yeah. Building up that community and reaching out to people, I think, certainly it's a bit of a superpower.
Yeah, definitely.
Harriet, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you about your business journey and marketing and just general life as well. So thank you very much. Wish you all the best in going forward in your business. Obviously, I'll follow you on social media, see what you get up to anyway. So keep smashing it. And thank you once again for joining me.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.